Being a teacher can bring out the worst in you, emotionally speaking, and only teachers can understand. However, I want to challenge you to pause and reflect before you make any decision of leaving the teacher world or simply leaving your school site. And like we say in Spanish, pensar con la cabeza fría, which means to think with your brain, not with your heart. My name is Yelbas. I am a former Spanish teacher of 5 years, and I am now a stay-at-home mom, TPT, small creator, and I share insights on teaching and of the sorts here on YouTube. Here are 5 questions to ask yourself before you make the decision to resign. Number 1, do your values align with the values of the school? So the reason why this is important is because if you have the same values as a school, you are more than likely to enforce those rules in your classroom, and having integrity becomes easier, right? You'll follow the rules and enforce policies when nobody is watching. And that's important in a workplace. What does the principal value the most? The student, families, teachers, nutrition, health, etc. So find out what that value is, and if it aligns with your values and also if it benefits you the most, then maybe it's okay to stay. However, in my case, when I resigned, and it was for a lot of reasons, and you can find that in my video here, was a little different. My last year of teaching, I went through a year full of reflections and transformation in my personal life, especially my spiritual life and my life as a Christian, and how that translated into other areas of my life. And not just that, like my relationship with Christ, but also in general. And one of the values at the previous school site was college. College above everything. It's more important, more prestigious than any other career. And at that point in my life, I was like, there are so many careers. We are living in a world where college is less and less attractive, especially with student loans. And the reason why we push college so much is because we've been conditioned, even from my generation, from school, like that is the best way that's the best pathway for child of immigrants to go. The goal is a 4-year university, even if you rack up student loans. I hope you can hear me above my baby's office. She's got a little baby office. It's kind of cute. And not just that, but they placed so much importance on grades and test scores. And although those are great things, I started to think about, as I am teaching, what impact am I making? Am I just teaching so that kids can have a good grade? Or am I teaching so that students can actually learn and retain the information and use Spanish in the real world? Because that's what matters at the end of the day. Not so much an A, a B, a C, whatever it is. The grade is just a grade. And we're living in a culture where merit is what makes you valuable, not just your person. Your existence doesn't make you valuable. What makes you valuable is if you have good grades, you have high SAT or ACT scores, or if you have a college degree. And me staying at that place, I felt like I was perpetuating. Is that the word? Perpetrate? I don't know. I felt I was perpetuating that notion of your value comes from all these your value comes from performance. And I did not want to continue to be in a workplace that does that. And that's very hard considering that most workplaces are like that. And at this point in my life, I feel privileged because I can stay at home with my baby, but I often wonder what job I would take on, considering that my values have shifted dramatically. Perhaps I do not belong in the classroom for those reasons, because I don't believe that education is all about performance. I believe education is for learning. But at this point, it almost seems like performance is above any type of learning. And it's just, schools are built for performance. It's not about learning, unfortunately, at least in the public school sense. So my example might be extreme. Nevertheless, I do believe that the values that you hold or your worldview will influence how you see the public school sphere. And it drives every decision that you make. It drives every interaction that you will make. On the other hand, the values of the school that you work for will bleed into the policies. It will bleed into how administration will treat you as an individual, as a teacher, and how it will treat parents, families, and other stakeholders. So be very cognizant of the values that your school has. Number 2, what do my relationships look like with my supervisors, coach, students, colleagues? So this is important, especially in education. Relationships with stakeholders are so important. It's not just with the students, it's with the janitors, it's those who help you with the IT, with the technology, with your administration, the office, literally everybody. It is essential to have positive relationships with these people. And I would encourage you to reflect on what those relationships look like. Do you have a positive connection with administration? Are you able to approach them and have a positive interaction, feedback? Do you feel comfortable approaching these folks with a problem? Or do you think there's tension, or that people just don't want to help you for whatever reason? And so I would really consider that, like, if you have positive relationships with the people that you see every single day, that might be something that is worth staying, because in every other workplace, you're gonna have to build those relationships from scratch again. I think if you have a negative relationship with most of the stakeholders, so we're talking about teachers, students, for whatever reason, and if there is no hope for restoration, then it might be time to move on. Because imagine going into a workplace and seeing people, working with people that are kind of bog you down for whatever reason, like every single day. Your passion is gonna go downhill. And I mean, I can only think of the worst, but when you have positive relationships, and if you can restore them and be the bigger person, it actually shows more about you as a person, as an individual. So if there is hope of restoration, definitely I encourage you to have that leap of faith. In my second year of teaching, I made a lot of mistakes and built negative relationships relationship, it was just one, with the vice principal. And that one of the main reasons why I did leave, because of this person. I could say a lot of mean things on the internet about him, but the thing that I will tell you is that I mirrored that same character to him. And I was 21 back then, right? And so I did make some mistakes, and I shouldn't have reacted the way that I did. And I should have been the bigger person and not react or be triggered by the things that he said or would do. So that really caused a negative relationship with him, but also with the rest of administration. In fact, the principal asked me if I wanted to leave, and I said I want to finish the contract and complete the year. And the principal literally just told me, you don't have to finish the year. So basically they wanted to lay me off earlier if they could, but I guess they didn't really have a reason to fire me. But they were like, if you You don't have to finish the whole year is basically what they said. The baby has a different sleeping schedule now, and she's not sleeping anymore. Or I think she's dropping her morning nap. And anyways, that's what we're doing it with the baby here. Anyways, I share that story with you because that was one of the reasons why I left the first school site. And although I did have positive relationships with some of the folks in that first school site, it just wasn't worth it to me. And I was getting paid pretty good. I'll tell you that. Okay, number 3, do I have a backup plan in the case that I resign? And this actually ties into my point about being emotional or not being emotional during this time of wanting to resign. And pensando con la cabeza fría and thinking with the brain and not with our heart, because sometimes we will make hasty decisions because we're so frustrated, because we are so angry at administration or at our students, or just completely wiped out, burnt out. And it's important for us to think with the brain and not with our heart. And the heart is deceiving, that's in the Bible. And anyways, I say this because I think I got to a point in my last year as a teacher for a lot of reasons, and you can see that in the video. But I think my decision of leaving was hasty. And I remember they usually put like they send out a Google form that says if you want to stay or you want to leave and explain. It's just a Google form. And when I received that, I immediately filled it out without even having a backup plan. I didn't even apply to jobs, nothing. And so in my personal opinion, if I could go back, I probably would not have resigned as fast as I did. What I would have done is probably wait 6 months or something like that, and then start looking for a job, because I started looking for jobs like 3 months or 2 months before the school ended, and that was not a good idea. I guess I had a lot of faith and trust that I would find a job, and I had a mortgage on my house, and we were living in my husband's apartment, and he was paying rent over there, and we were living there. And you know, I had a car payment. I didn't have a lot of credit card debt at that point. But anyways, yeah, I got pregnant during the transition of trying to find a new job. And you know, we made it work, even though it was tight. Money was so tight at that time, especially because we had mortgage and rent. But thankfully we decided to move into my house and then break the lease at my husband's apartment. And yeah, that's what I would have done. Because people have bills, but you know what, sometimes when you're just in it, when you're just ready, like I just want to leave, you know, that's just speaking from your emotions, but not really not truly what's happening in your bills and your financial situation. All right, number 4, do I feel physically and mentally safe in this job? And the word safe can be kind of tricky right now, because people will say, oh, I don't feel mentally safe here, or this isn't a safe space. And so we're not struggling with semantics here, I'm just referring safe as in there's no danger or physical abuse or mental abuse in the classroom, because that can exist, especially with students and things like that. And this is so important, because safety is number 1. And if your administration doesn't take safety seriously, then I think it's time to move out, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're not prepared, or you're afraid of your students, you're afraid of whatever it is. You need to feel safe at work, and unfortunately that's just not the case in all schools. And I will share something that made me think about this question is, and I don't know if this was like one of the reasons why I left my previous school, but I think it did. to some capacity, but it wasn't like the biggest reason. And I actually had a situation in my second school site where I had a bang on my classroom door, and it was the most startling bang that I've ever heard. And it floors me that somebody could have that amount of strength, a teenager, to bang on that door as hard as they did. And I don't know if it was a group or if it was a small student, an individual student. That was startling, and it triggered some anxiety, especially in a culture, in a society where you have deranged people shooting schools left and right, and you're just like, who was that bang? And I didn't have any windows in my classroom, and I had requested for windows to be in my classroom from the beginning of the school year, and this was, I think, like a couple months before. And it wasn't until that situation, because I reported it to administration and I told them I didn't want any of those kids to be in my classroom until we find out who it is. And I had one kid confess, but it was interesting because, anyways, I don't want to get into the details of it, but the point is that it wasn't until that situation where I actually expressed that I was unsafe, that I did not feel secure in my own classroom, that they put in windows. Because I feel a lot safer when there are windows, because there are more witnesses. There's somebody is looking inside, right? Or you can look outside as well. So anyways, I think safety is important. So number 5, have you talked to any of your colleagues about resigning, whether it be in your school site or other teacher friends? I think this is important because it can kind of give you an idea of, are other teachers also thinking of resigning? Or if you have seen a history of teachers resigning for the same reasons, because policies aren't changing, it's the same problems and that are not addressed, and same administration, nothing is changing. So in that case, if you're seeing a history, a record of teachers just leaving like flies, maybe it is time to move on, because you don't want to be that teacher that just submits to everything what the policies are saying just so that you can have a job, and because I think a lot of folks stay in the workplace because they're afraid to I'm gonna have to find another job, and I'm not even sure if I'll be able to get a job, or you're afraid of the instability or the potential of instability. That means that you're staying in a place, you're just settling for less of what you deserve. So anyways, I think if you are passionate about teaching and you are good at teaching, you like your job, but the policies and your administration and the rest of staff makes it very hard to be in that place, I'm telling you, there are better schools out there for you that have better and consistent policies. And for me personally, I resigned mostly because of the inconsistent policies. I did have positive relationships with most of the teachers and administration and staff. Thank the Lord, right, that I still had those relationships, and I was a good teacher. I believe that I was a great teacher, and I really liked what I did. But unfortunately, I had to leave for the reasons that I said in the video. And so, yeah, I would ask myself if you've talked to administration about, I would talk to colleagues or friends before making any decision. I guess it helps confirm whether or not you're making the right decision. And also you have colleagues that can support you and might even help you, so I would definitely not keep it a secret. But who knows, because you might have teachers that will, share with other teachers and other students, oh yeah, so-and-so is leaving or thinking of leaving. So I understand why you would want it to be reserved, but I guess that's just your decision. So let me know in the comments below whether or not you are thinking of leaving the profession, or if you want to leave your school site. If you've already made the decision of resigning, what are you doing now? Let us know in the comments. Let's build a community. And again, this video is not to encourage teachers to resign. I hope that if you're in a position that you can stay in the classroom and you're a good teacher and you're treated well, like definitely stay in the profession. It's so beautiful, and I wish I could go back, but I just think it's, I mean, I can't right now, but if I could, I would definitely try very hard and filtering many schools. Anyways, yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys. God bless you. Bye.